So here we are, drawing ever closer to the end of the NFL regular season. You got 5 weeks left, five bad boys. This time does fly by indeed. So you are now starting to see teams jockey for playoff position, other teams entering tank mode, and other teams perhaps deluding themselves into thinking they can make the playoffs. You got a whole wide potpourri of mix here. So anyways, here I am with my picks for week 14 of this 2024 NFL season. Quick recap for week 13. Really good week for me. 14-2 picking the winners straight up and 10-6 against the spread. I would take those results 100 out of 100 times, making me season to date 117-62 picking the winners straight up and 179 against the spread. So solid numbers. Like I said, you can make some money betting based off of my picks, but don't go too broke and too crazy buying into my bullshit just yet. That's all I'll say. The Thursday night matchup obviously was a great one. I won't say a classic, but it was a great Thursday night game between the Packers and the Lions. Not a lot of D there, if you will, but certainly a lot of offense for both teams. And Detroit ends up winning by 3. That was one of those games going into it you had a feeling was going to be pretty close, probably a field goal margin one way or another. So the Vegas money was pretty spot on there, no big surprise. Um, let's go on, though, to the rest of the week's action. We'll start off with the early Sunday afternoon games. You've got Jacksonville traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. The Titans are 3.5-point favorites here, which I think is largely reflective of the disaster of a season this has been for Jacksonville, and then the concussion to Trevor Lawrence, which appears to have knocked him out for the season. It's been really interesting for folks to talk about, the hit that was made on him by the Texans defender and whether or not that was dirty. The player was suspended for 3 games. Was that enough? And, it's one of those moments to me where I'm like, I think the result and the optics are worse than they actually were. And maybe it's just a boomer take, perhaps. More so, maybe just a reflection of the state of the modern NFL is that type of play, which to me didn't feel like it had a ton of malice, looked worse than it was. I understand like the push for player safety, even though the NFL is incredibly hypocritical about that. But damn, like shit happens. It's a rough game. It's contact sport. Like I could see if it was so obvious that Trevor Lawrence was already clearly sliding and he was down and then dude tried to take his head off. It felt like more of a bang bang type of play. Like what the fuck is the defender supposed to do in that case? I'm sorry, but everybody stop acting like fucking snowflakes when it comes to this, especially Jags fans. I understand Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback and you're already having a bad season and this just makes it worse. It's like the cherry on the shit sundae. But grow up and get the fuck over yourselves a little bit. That's all I'm saying. So you're going to see Mac Jones the rest of the way. Opportunity here at the end of the season for Will Levis to show whether he can hold on to that starting job or be worth holding the starting job for Tennessee in 2025. Titans are favored by 3.5. I'll take the Titans to win, but I will take the Jags to cover the spread. Again, these divisional matchups, they get a little scary. Sometimes you just really don't know what can happen. Speaking of divisional matchups, you've got the Jets traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins, and the Jets have been bad this year, and Aaron Rodgers hasn't been great. Gee, I wonder who could have seen that coming. Meanwhile, the Dolphins and where they're at, you've got Tyreek Hill has made more babies this year than he's had touchdown catches, which is a pretty impressive stat if you think about it. Like, that's a superstar right there. He is just there to do one thing, and that is make fucking babies. Side note, this is a real indictment against women in our society that they know that this fucking dude is just going out there and sticking it raw into everything he possibly can, and they all want a piece of that pie. Like, so just remember, when somebody tells you that men are dogs, the ladies come back and say, woof, woof, ow. Miami's favored by 6 here. The spread's a little scary just because of it is a divisional game, but I think Breece Hall was questionable or doubtful for this one. A couple other injuries there. So I will go ahead and take the Dolphins to win -6. The Kirk Cousins revenge game. You've got the Falcons traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings with the Vikings 6-point favorites. And you look at the Vikings, and I'm sure Sam Darnold's going to win comeback player of the year honors. I wonder though, like at what point in time does he enter the MVP conversation for a two-loss Vikings team, and he's putting up some really good numbers? Like, if you go based off of the history and the precedent of the MVP award, quarterbacks that put up good numbers, great numbers on top teams get votes. Sam Darnold absolutely belongs in that conversation. And I think certainly right now, Kevin O'Connell, to me, my opinion, is the runaway leader for Coach of the Year. When you think about this season, was supposed to be about J.J. McCarthy, but you look at the work he's put in with Sam Darnold and where this team is at, it's hard not to give him a big nod there. Um, could be a fun one. Curious to see how Kirk responds going back to a place where he spent so many years of his career in Minnesota. I like the Vikings to win this one, but I do like the Falcons to cover the 6-point spread. You've got the Saints traveling to the Giants in a game that I'm sure nobody wants to watch, up to and including especially the fans of those two teams. Give me the Saints minus the 5 here, although the Saints aren't a very good team, and as much as the Giants stink, that 5-point spread scares me a little bit. One to watch out for is the Panthers traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Eagles are mighty big 13.5-point favorites here. And you're going to say, well, the Panthers stink. Yes, they do. However, in recent weeks, they've played better ball. And I think over the last 3 or 4 games, they have covered the spread each time. So that includes beating the Saints, taking the Buccaneers to overtime, playing the Chiefs tough and only losing by 3, right? You look at this Panthers team, like, that's a mighty big spread. Certainly the Eagles are better, but they got to be careful too and not get too caught up in their own bullshit, because this can be a trap game where you run into some trouble. And I think we see that play out a little bit in terms of, well, I think the Eagles will ultimately win. I just can't feel comfortable based off of Carolina's recent trajectory and Bryce Young starting to show a little bit at least. I'm going to take Carolina to cover the 13.5-point spread. You've got the Browns traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. And for some reason, the Steelers are 7-point favorites. There must be something I'm missing here. I'll take the Steelers to win, but I like the Browns to cover the 7. You've got the Raiders traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. And I have to wonder if Antonio Pierce is coaching his last few games for the Raiders. I don't know why you would bring him back for 2025 at this point. I don't know why he was hired to begin with. Give me the Buccaneers minus the 6.5. Switching over to the late Sunday afternoon action, you've got the Seahawks traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals in a pivotal NFC West matchup. For the Seahawks coming in at 7-5, really good opportunity for them to create some more distance between them and the Cardinals and the 49ers and the Rams in that division. They really need this one. Meanwhile, if Arizona wins this game, it almost feels like the type of game that if they win, they've got a real shot to win this NFC West and get a home playoff game. Arizona at home is favored by 2.5. I think the Seahawks are a little better team overall, so I will take the Seahawks plus the 2.5. You've got the Bills traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Interesting matchup again. The Bills feeling good, recently beating the Chiefs. Now you come and you say, okay, you got to handle business on the road. The Rams in the mix in the NFC West. I do like the Bills in this one, though, so give me Buffalo minus the 3.5. You've got Bears football traveling to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. Thomas Brown's first game as the interim head coach for this team. Big chance for him. 5-game job interview, basically, show what he can do for the 49ers. While the Bears have certainly had a disappointing season, you could say the exact same thing about the 49ers as well. So that said, I still like San Francisco in this one. Give me the 49ers minus the 3. The Sunday night game you expect will be a damn good one. It's the Chargers traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Big marquee matchup. Herbert and Mahomes. Harbaugh versus Reed. AFC West, stakes here. So, big one. And the ironic thing, I've seen so many Bears fans talk about, well, the Bears didn't even interview Jim Harbaugh. Look, the Bears should have fired Matt Eberflus after last season. And I was on record plenty of times saying that should have been the case. They didn't, though. If you could say, well, it's a joke they didn't even interview Jim Harbaugh, I would agree with that. However, to be clear, I think all these Bears fans sitting there and talking about, well, look at what would happen if the Bears fucking would have hired Harbaugh. Look what he would do. What would he do? You look at Los Angeles this season, you look at the Chargers, what the fuck are they doing? They're winning with defense and running the fucking ball, and have kind of minimized Herbert in that passing game. You know what that's called, folks? That's called fucking Bears football. So, of course, Bears fans would have fucking wanted Harbaugh because he would have coached a team that was dependent upon winning in the way that they're so used to after so many fucking years, because that's been a great fucking success, right? All that to say, Harbaugh's certainly done a good job in his first year there with the Chargers. The Chiefs, coming off of a loss. This is a team that's still the two-time defending Super Bowl champions, but they've been winning ugly this year. And you feel like at some point in time the rug's going to completely fall out from under them. A big spot for the Chargers, though. They've beaten a lot of scrub teams. This is a chance for them to show that they are legit, right? Go on the road, beat the Chiefs, build some real confidence as you head towards the playoffs. I think they do get it done actually on Sunday night. So give me the Chargers plus the 4 in an upset. And then Monday night, the Bengals travel to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. I'll take the Bengals minus the 5.5. And I know Cowboys fans are just writing out the string and wondering who their next head coach is going to be.